Good morning, everyone. My name is Kim York, and I work with the KDE ERP support team, formerly known as Munis. Before we begin, I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday last week and hope that everyone's going to be able to take some time to enjoy the holidays coming up in December and January, maybe some downtime and rest. This has been a tough year, and it's gone by extremely fast on my end anyway. I also want to give a shout out to the Northern Kentucky Finance Payroll Group that is tuned in with us for the team's event today. Hope everyone is doing well there. So let's get started. So our topic today is the 2024 year-end payroll and 2025 open enrollment file processing in Enterprise ERP. I'd like to introduce our team. We have Kristen Lambert, who is our team lead and technical analyst. I'm sure that many of you have probably worked with her before. My name, Kim York. I'm a technical analyst with the team as well. And Kathy Pelletier, who is our Tyler Technologies vendor partner. So if you have any questions while the webcast is going, you have a Q&A button at the top of your screen. Feel free to ask any questions and we'll answer them as soon as possible. So to begin with, we're going to start with the 2025 open enrollment processing. Your OE file is expected on December the 10th. We also attached on the webcast reminder this morning an end of year payroll guide. You want to please follow the steps within that guide. It's very important. The steps are listed for a reason, and completing them out of order can cause some issues with processing your health insurance file and employee deductions. So I want to start with talking about the new Perner field. This update to the Kentucky Employee Benefits Program is required and before you want to import your open enrollment file. So before importing the open enrollment file, you must be using the latest version of the Kentucky Employee Benefits Program. This ensures an update was applied that manages how optional insurance plans import when processing the open enrollment file. So you'll verify you're using the most recent version of the Kentucky Employee Benefits Program. By opening the program, you're going to look at your benefit records. And if you see the new Perner field, it's highlighted in yellow in the screenshot, then you're set to go. If that Perner field is there, it's below the employee number on the benefit record. If it's there, you're good to go and you're ready to import your open enrollment file. If you don't see the Perner file, you need to make sure that you've got that update. Most districts that I've talked with are already seeing the Perner field there. I feel like probably a big percentage of our districts already have this update. You can go today and look at a benefit record and see if you see that Perner field there. If not, you want to make sure that you get that update. So step one, you want to import the new health plan codes. So districts are now required to import the new health plan codes into Enterprise ERP before importing the annual open enrollment file in December. So these codes are used by the Kentucky Employee Benefits Program when importing health insurance files from CRIS. This must be completed before importing the open enrollment file. You did have the plan codes were attached to the reminder this morning as well. So you'll download the Kentucky Health Plan Codes 2020 file to your computer. You'll navigate to the miscellaneous codes, and this is your path to the miscellaneous codes. You'll navigate to the type INSL, and you'll see that it's highlighted in gray in the screenshot. You'll select accept and select either yes or no to the prompt to view the record set. You'll select the import button from the ribbon. You'll select define and then enter the following information on the screen. You're going to see these fields in the screenshot. So under the field template, you'll select default from the drop-down option. And for B, your file, you'll navigate to the Kentucky Health Plan Codes 2025 that was downloaded to your computer. And you want to note here that the program will rename the file to a temporary name in the file input path. And you can see an example of that out from file in the screenshot. And then the box at the very bottom, you'll want to select to skip the first line. You'll then select accept and select an output format to review your report and select yes to import those new records. You'll select back, so you'll go back to the main screen. You'll select search and accept to view the list of insurance codes after importing the new codes. Most districts should at that point see 274 records in the found set. You'll select yes and then browse to view the list of codes to verify the new codes were imported. And these are the codes that you should actually see. So step 2, you want to verify records in pending and purge your old records. So before importing the 2025 open enrollment file, review all records in the Kentucky Employee Benefits pending area to determine if you have any unprocessed records. This is important. If you have any unprocessed 2024 files or records pending, they should be imported and processed before proceeding with the open enrollment file. So this is your pathway to the Kentucky Employee Benefits. You'll select the Import Pending option, select Import Later. So this will take you directly to your pending records if you choose Import Later. You'll choose the Select All button, from the ribbon, you'll select Update. Then you'll choose the Select All button to select any old unprocessed records and then select Accept, at which point you'll select the Purge button and select Yes to the prompt. So step 3, you're ready to import the 2025 open enrollment file. And KDE anticipates the distribution of the open enrollment file around December 10th. This file can be imported into the pending area before your December payrolls have been completed. So you can pull those into the pending area, but you don't want to go any further until your payrolls are processed. So the process for importing the OE file is the same that you use for your daily change files. The OE file can be identified by the date and file size bytes. So it's going to be a huge file. So when selecting the file from the import screen, the file from the import screen. So the open enrollment file can be imported into pending and moved to active before the December payrolls have been completed. But again, do not process the update deduction step before completing all 2024 payrolls and deleting all 2024 health insurance and FSA deductions. We'll talk about that. So the open enrollment file and all daily files must be imported and ordered by the date received. Do not import files received after the OE file until the OE file has been imported. The posting of both the employee and employer portions is critical for W-2 processing. It is the district's responsibility to make sure both employee and employer deductions are posted. So your effective dates on records. I get lots of questions about the life insurance records. The health insurance, FSA, vision, and dental all have the new 1/1/2025 effective date. However, your life, which is basic or optional dependent insurance dates, will vary. The date included in the file will reflect the original date the employee enrolled in life insurance. So everything but life will have the 1/1/2025, but your basic and optional dependent life will have a date based on when the employee enrolled in life insurance. And that's important. So step 4, you'll set your deduction start date and move your 2025 records to active. So in the import pending area, you'll select the open enrollment records and move to active. If you only have open enrollment records pending, you can skip step 1 and go to step 2. This process works the same way as when you import a daily health file, except you have many more records to manage. So if records other than the open enrollment file exists in pending, you'll select search, enter the OE file name in the import file name field, and check the box of each benefit type. And you see an example here to the left. You'll select accept. This allows you to filter and only work with the OE records and ignore other records. Or after selecting update and select all in the following step, manually deselect non-open enrollment records in pending before moving the OE records to active. And a note here is that the file name entered is an example only. Use your district's open enrollment file name. So setting your deduction start date and move 2025 records to active, you're going to select update from the ribbon, choose select all, and click accept. You'll select set start date and enter the deduction start date you assigned and select accept. You'll determine the deduction start date to ensure the new deduction amounts are withheld in the first January payroll. The deduction start date should be before or within the first payroll where the 2025 health amounts are to be deducted. We suggest 1 day before the beginning of your payroll period as you import files throughout the year. You would follow the same method of selecting a deduction start date before the beginning of your upcoming payroll period. Your dates may differ from the example. So here the example is that the deduction start date we have is 12/14/2024. The payroll period is 12/15 to 12/31 for the first date of January, which is important. That's the first payroll where these new deduction rates, benefit rates will process. You'll select the Move to Active button and select Yes to the prompt. So we suggest that the deduction start date be the day before the payroll, but it can be a date within that payroll date range of 12/15 to 12/31. So just a little bit about federal reimbursement and health records. So records must be moved to active throughout the entire year. These records are vital to processing federal reimbursement. If records are not imported and moved to active, federal reimbursement amounts will be incorrect. I get many calls from people saying that they have someone who was paid federally, but they didn't pull into the federal reimbursement file. And the first thing I always say is check to make sure they have a benefit record. If they are someone who is entered manually into to the employee deductions program and a benefit record was never set up, the benefit record is where the health benefit amounts pull into federal reimbursement. So always look, if you have someone that should have pulled into your federal reimbursement report and did not, check to see that they actually have a benefit record set up. 9 times out of 10, that's where the issue lies. So step 5, post-tax health deductions. If you have an employee whose insurance would be considered post-tax, and this is something kind of rare, we don't see this very often at all, and most districts know if they have someone who fits that bill. But in this case, the pre-tax box would need to be unmarked. So from the benefit record screen, find the employee whose health deduction needs to be processed as post-tax. You'll select Update and remove the check mark from the pre-tax box and select Accept. So the Kentucky Employee Benefits Guide has a little more information out there about that that you can take a look at if you have any other questions about that. So we're up to completing our 2024 payrolls. At this point, all 2024 payrolls must be completed before proceeding to the next step. Step 7 is to find and delete last year's deductions. People get scared about this, but it really is. It's a way to start with a clean slate. And it's a simple process. So once your payrolls for 2024 have been completed, you can find and delete all the following deductions. And these are your state-generated deductions, your employee health insurance, the employer health insurance, your FSA dependent, your FSA health, optional and dependent life, dental and vision. So these are all the state initiated benefits. So this can be completed using the global option in the employee deductions program. You select global and then click delete. You'll enter the appropriate deduction number and then select enter. Select yes if you're ready to delete the deductions. And it's telling you again these deductions that you need to delete out. I always say it's a good idea to make a list of the deduction codes that you have for each of these and have them in front of you. It'll make the process really quick and simple. So processing your update deductions. So you do not process the update deduction step until all prior steps have been completed. You want to close the employee deductions program if it is open before you proceed. So from the Kentucky Employee Benefits main menu, you select Benefit Records and then select Current Find and select the Update Deductions. So you'll select Define and then enter a minimum deduction start date. You'll enter the deduction start date you entered when moving the records to active. Only benefit records with the deduction start date as of that date or later will be processed during the update deductions process. Any unposted records with the deduction start date that falls before that minimum deduction start date will be ignored. This method should be used throughout the year, not just for the open enrollment file. So you'll enter a minimum deduction start date. Again, that's the start date you use when moving deductions to active. You'll select delete employee deduction. You'll select the type of record, which you'll select all, or you'll select individual, and select output post to choose a method of output to view. You'll select yes to post. And the crucial thing here is that the update deduction step must be performed in Enterprise ERP. The posting of both the employee and the employer portions is critical for your W-2 processing. It's the district's responsibility to make sure both the employee and employer cost of coverage deductions are posted. In your verified deductions, if you set the deduction start date for a future date, you won't see the deduction if current is selected. You must select future. So the options that you see here in the screenshot, the search fields here for current, all, historical, future, these do not show up until you choose to search within employee deductions. When you choose the search button, you're going to then see these options. Most of the time I see it default to current. It will stay on the last one that you chose until you change it. So if you're in December and you're looking for January deductions that are going to start in the future because it's ahead of where you are, you want to be sure that you choose the future option so that you can verify that those deductions are set up for January. So this is something just in general, but if you have a problem when posting an ERP, take a screenshot of that. And this is anytime. This is outside of open enrollment. It just helps in general if we need to see an error message you're receiving, or if Tyler needs to see an error message that you're receiving. It's always a good idea to use Microsoft Snip and Sketch or a snipping tool that's built into Windows to capture screenshots so that you have what that error message means. It can be all telling. Otherwise, you're going to have to go back through the process again, get that error message again, so that we can see what's causing the problem. So it's always good to take a snippet of those error messages. So miscellaneous import file info. So you want to continue importing your files received after the official open enrollment file. So files received after the official open enrollment file may contain both 2024 and 2025 records. But this is important. If you receive 2024 records after importing the 2025 open enrollment file, it will require a manual update to the employee deductions in payroll to collect the amount owed. If posted or moved to active, it's going to overwrite those 2025 deduction amounts. So that's important. So talking about the FSA amounts after open enrollment, the FSA amounts sent on the files reflect the total annual amount to withhold for the calendar year. So if you receive files afterwards, you're going to have to update the cycles on the record before moving the FSA record to active. EERP will recalculate the per check amount. So the example you have here is a full 24. It's going to break it down. If you have someone that comes in later, you may need to lower those cycles from 24 to 22, whatever, how many pay cycles are left for that individual, and it will automatically calculate how much should come from each check at that point. So this is some miscellaneous end of year payroll information that we have for you. And first will be the 2025 Social Security tax update. So the Social Security tax in general, the Social Security maximum table earnings will increase to $176,100 for 2025. So when you multiply that by the 6.2%, that gives us $10,918.20. So you'll then need to update the deduction and benefit master employee/employer limit field for all FICA deductions before generating the first payroll for 2025. You have a screenshot example here of what that would look like. And so your federal tax tables, this is important. So Tyler made an announcement via Tyler Community in October that they will now be distributing the federal tax tables via the Tyler Deploy updates. The post can be found here. You're going to be getting a copy of this PowerPoint presentation with the follow-up email with the recording and everything of the meeting. So you'll be able to choose these links. But the post can be found here once you've logged into Tyler Community. Prior year tax tables will continue to work until new tax tables are entered. the Kentucky tax table. So the Department of Revenue has released updates for 2025, and the 2025 tax rate remains the same. Excuse me. The standard deduction increased to $3,270. So you'll open the tax tables program. You'll search for the January 1st, 2024 and locate the Kentucky tax table. You'll select copy table and copy the 2024 tax table to the effective date of 1/1/2025. And you have a screenshot here of that as well. And you'll update the standard deduction amount. So select the Calc button on the ribbon to update the 2025 tax table. You'll update the gross wage minus field to the new standard deduction rate of $3,270. So you want to verify the withholding percentage. You select the tax table button on the ribbon. Verify the percentage field is 4%. And again, you have a screenshot here as well. And so now we're going to talk about payroll control settings. It's using the frequency when annualizing. So why does this matter? And the reason it matters is your late hires. You may find that late hires aren't withholding as much federal tax as you think they should. The annualized amount is based on a payroll control setting. If you want to make changes, the beginning of the calendar year is ideal, which is why we're talking about this now. So federal tax will look to either 1, the number of pays, or 2, the pay frequency in employee job salary. If the control setting is set to no, then EERP will use the employee's number of pays from employee job salary to calculate the federal income tax, which can be bad for late hires. If the control setting is set to yes, then it will use the full number of periods associated with the pay frequency, 26 for biweekly or 52 for weekly, etc. The number of pays, whether it pulls from the pay frequency or number of pays in employee job salary based on the above setting, is used to annualize the employee's gross that is then used to calculate the federal tax. So for an example, if you have the payroll control setting to no, if an employee has 15 number of pays defined in employee job salary and a pay frequency of S, which is semi-monthly, Enterprise ERP will take the employee's deduction gross or FIT deduction and multiply it by 15, ignoring the pay frequency. In comparison, if you have the payroll control setting set to yes, then it will look for the pay frequency of S semi-monthly and multiply the employee's deduction gross for FIT by 24, ignoring the 15 number of pays. This may be beneficial for late hires. Questions about this should be directed to EERP Payroll Support with Tyler. So moving on to ACA, your 1095-C reporting information. The draft deadline, which I looked at today, and it seems to be in place, but I've got the link here for you so that you can verify that. We always appreciate that you verify this information right before you start this process. But the deadline for plain coverage year 2024 is as follows. So due to employees, March 3rd, 2025, I added the link there so that you could look at it to see that it seems to be in place. It's not a draft anymore. But again, please check that if you can. And that the electronic filing to the IRS is March 31st of 2025. So the files with coverage dates for participants, employees, and dependents will be distributed around January 10th. An email will be sent notifying everyone the files are available once they have been distributed. So the KDE guides on ACA processing can be found at our guide site for your reference. All documentation regarding EERP processing of year-end tax and Tyler forms processing is currently being developed and maintained by Tyler representatives. The documents will be uploaded to Tyler Community once made available. And links to those resources can be found here at the below link. Note that you must be logged into your Tyler Community account to access the site. If you don't have a support account, and I highly recommend that you do, you can log in to register here. We have the link for you. It's a great resource, a great tool for you to have. So year-end tax processing W-2, 1099s, and ACA. This page on Tyler Community is your one-stop shop for all information related to year-end. The site contains process documentation and information on printing. You can find the page using the below link. Again, you must be logged into Tyler Community to view the page. So this is an important thing, your tax form printing. So for this upcoming printing of year-end tax forms, districts that use Doc Origins for integrated printing with Enterprise ERP will only have one option, Enterprise Forms, which is Ready Forms, for tax forms printing. Note here that this change does not impact any district that uses pre-printed form stock. So please note that. Check out this post for information, including webinars about using Enterprise Forms for year-end tax form printing. So the best thing you can do to ensure smooth process for year-end tax is to verify that you have access to Enterprise Forms and that you are able to test print a W-2 or a 1099. You can test with your 2023 data in a non-production environment until 2024 code is available mid-November. Tyler posted information on November 8th that they will be scheduling and installing the updates to Enterprise Forms in the coming weeks. And you have a link to the post there. Make sure you can access Enterprise Forms. Tax forms for 2024 will be installed, as mentioned in the above linked Tyler Community post. Verify you have a network printer installed. This can be confirmed by doing a test print with 2023 data. If a printer needs to be configured, it can be done via a ticket with TSM SAS support. Tyler will be hosting webinars on processing the 2024 tax forms with Enterprise Forms, Ready Forms. If this is your first time printing with using Enterprise Forms, Ready Forms, please make sure to register and watch a webcast. More information can be found at the link we have here as well. So the KDE Enterprise ERP SharePoint site, the SharePoint site includes a document repository for items not included where we have our EERP guides located on the KDE website. This also includes year-end processing documents saved from the Tyler Community for your reference. Once year-end documentation is available from Tyler, it will also be stored on the KDE Enterprise SharePoint site. You can access the site by using your district email address and password. This SharePoint site, Kristen's worked really hard to develop, has a lot of important information out there. It's a great tool for relevant or current program report processing. She'll have anything out there that you may need. A lot of important information that Tyler puts out will be linked to our SharePoint site. I highly recommend that you save that to reference for the future. And so questions here, this is our team box, EERP@education.ky.gov. We tell you not to send individual emails and that, if you need to, that's fine. But if you, in case one of us happen to be out or busy, it's always good to send it to the team box. And again, you have a link to the SharePoint site there as well. Kristen, is there anything else that we need to add?
Say, Kim, great presentation. Thanks for all that information. Maybe it's selfish on my part. Thanks for the props on the SharePoint side. I put a couple links in there in the chat that people don't have or haven't ever accessed it before. You can check it out there. Couple things to reiterate. You must have the program update installed before you import that open enrollment file. It's just not the Perner field. There are other updates out there that impact how the optional health insurance plans import into Munis or ERP. So you have to have that update. Don't stop or you'll have to go through everything again if you do not have that updated.
Seriously, you will.
So let's not do that if we can prevent it. Talk with your Munis administrator, typically your finance officer, if you do not see that Perner field, and we'll be happy to work with them on getting those updates installed. Second thing before I hop into the question here is Enterprise Forms. For all those districts that use integrated printing with Tyler, please check out that important update on year-end tax processing. Doc Origins, while it still works for all your other printing, Tyler has shifted to using the enterprise forms for all year-end printing, and it'll be that way going forward. There was a webcast yesterday on the process. They'll have future ones. Again, that SharePoint site is just kind of a one-stop shop, so you can find that information. Kim mentioned the year-end documents that are on our SharePoint site. I'm going to share really quick if possible, Kim. We do have, let's see here. Hopefully you see my screen now. We do have a documents thing on the left-hand side here. You'll see calendar, end of year Tyler documents. 2024 into your documents, and as we see those documents, we'll be adding them. Of course, you can always check out it on Tyler, but I'd just like to drop it there, including there's information with the printing guide for the enterprise forms. So let me stop sharing. It looks like Christy has a question. Let's do this. I'm going to unmute you, Christy, if you have a mic. Okay, Christy, you're unmuted if you wanted to ask a question. Or you'll need to unmute your mic, but I allowed your mic access. We did have one question here while we wait for Christy to unmute her mic. Can we get a copy of the PowerPoint that was used? Of course, we'll be sending that out after the webcast. We always record all these webcasts and include a copy of the presentation afterwards because you never know, typos happen. So we'll have that for you later today, most likely. Let's see here. We always have a lot of questions on this webinar, and Kim, I guess, just did such a good job. There aren't any. Christy, if you're raising your hand, if you can talk or you can put the question in the Q&A. Let's see here. Somebody said I did not see attachments on this morning's reminder email. Can you resend those? They'll be part of that email about the webcast. There were 2 attachments on there, so I double check that you did not, should have received those.
They wouldn't have been on the original email that we sent out with the date and the registration link, but the one that went out this morning should have them attached.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So question here, the update you're referring to is referred to the webinar back in October. So as far as what release you need to have in the Kentucky Employee Benefits Program, the easiest answer to that is to open up your Kentucky Employees Benefit Program, look at a health insurance record. If you see the Perner field right underneath the Social Security number and employee name, you are up to date. So, and that is in only supported versions of Enterprise ERP, which is 2021.11, 12, 2024, 1, 2, and 3. If you are still one of those few remaining districts that are on version 2021.10, you have to be upgraded before you import the open enrollment file. Let's see, anything else?
We've had a lot of people, Michelle, say that there are other reports that they can pull that they could use that Perner number field for. So hopefully it's going to be a benefit in more ways than, just this. So.
So Christy said, Christy, I may have hit this by accident. Yeah, Christy, you raised your hand. I'll lower it for you. How about that? Let's see. If you made the change with FSA contributions for late hire to configure the semi-monthly cost, will have to be modified each year or will automatically be updated in January. So the question is talking about late hires, like if I make the change on the record, do I have to change it each year? That's just a continuing thing. Anybody that's a late hire, it has to be updated. So the default is based on your settings, which is for most districts 24. There are a few districts that pay monthly, so it may be 12. So when you import any health insurance record, an FSA, it defaults to 24 and does the math for you for the withholding per paycheck. You have a late hire that is hired in March. They do not have 24 cycles left for the year. They may only have 18 or whatever is left. So you update the FSA record, it will calculate it for you, and then you post the deduction. And if they receive another record through the calendar year, you would have to look at that again. But come the open enrollment file, when you have a fresh one, there's nothing that has to be done. That's in the settings. It's just every time you have a late hire or a change for an existing hire and there's a FSA amount on there, you do need to look at those. Let's see here. Everybody always has questions about dates. You know, we throw those examples out as examples only. Everybody has different dates for payroll. The key is to use, we suggest the day before your payroll date begins. So they say their January payroll will be on January 5th. The payroll dates of 12/15 to 1/4. So my day before is on 12/14. So that's what I would use just for the open enrollment file. But as you move farther on, you're, you know, in March processing daily import files, your deduction start date is not 12/15 or 12/14. It may be March 14th or March 1st or whatever your dates are. So that's a moving target as the year goes on. So it will not pick up any old unprocessed records. So it looks like Amber Lee has her hand raised. Let's unmute her. Amber, I allowed you access to the mic if you wanted to talk and ask a question.
Oh, thank you. I was listening on my phone in my car, and then I logged into the one here on my desk. So I had already asked the question, but while I'm on here, I'll go ahead and say this. I don't think that like the person, we've had a lot of turnover with people moving around in different positions, and like the person that's handling our insurance stuff now, like we had some people hired over the summer and their FSA was not calculated. So I had to catch it like when I got the bill to go in and make those changes. So that's why I'd asked. It makes more sense to know that on the front end there's a way to calculate that versus me having to catch it on the bill and then making them pay large amounts of money when if they would have known that in advance. So I'm just glad that I learned that today, and hopefully we can get that fixed for future.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your input.
Great, Amber.
Thank you.
So
all.
yes, it's on the individual record. So you can do that in pending when it comes in. You look at those records.
So you can do it on pending in the individual record.
So you'll see that and it'll recalculate it there. Or if it comes in and you post it into the active set, as long as you do it before you update deductions, you can select update and change the number of fields, and it will recalculate the per check amount for you.
Okay. Thank you all so much.
Thanks. Let's see here. Any others? Thanks for the I had other people say the Perner field. If I known it was so important, we would have added it a long time ago. So on that note, if you ever have other suggestions, especially that's an easy suggestion, we're happy to, relay that to the Tyler people and see what we can do to help out. So let's see, Jamie has her hand up. Jamie, I just allowed your mic. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question.
She has a question in the box, Kristen. She's saying, how do we update the benefit record to the new update? And that's an overall. It's above Christie's.
Okay, I see this. That question's not really quite clear to me. How do we update the benefit record to the new update? So I'm assuming you're saying you do not see the Perner field on the record. That is a Tyler deploy question, and I have a whole nother webinar on that. If you do not handle the updates at your district, please reach out to your finance officer. If the finance officer or maybe your CIO or someone manages the Munis updates, reach out to them if they have questions. They can send an email to our box, but updates need to be applied via Tyler Deploy. Okay. Let's see. Anything else?
Pageant saying if you could add the Chris ID number too, that would be great.
I thought
That's the
Chris,
Perner
is that
number.
different?
That's
I thought
the
that was a
Perner
Perner.
number.
Yeah.
No, I think that's the Perner number. So that should be all you need.
That's what we receive on the import files from Chris, is the Perner number. So it was easy to add that field to the screen. Let's see here. Well, we still have people saying hanging on. We'll hang on for another couple minutes, but if you have any questions, please drop it in the Q&A versus the chat. It makes it easier for us to manage. Okay, going once. Going twice. Kim, thanks so much for doing that presentation. Afterwards, if you have any questions at all on the process, please send a message to the team box. Kim and I both are able to answer these questions, and just a lot easier for us to manage any questions you receive and make sure you get the support more quickly. Let's see, here's another Q&A. What was that support email again? Here, why don't we just drop it in the box? Well, it's eerp@education.ky.gov. Let me reply to that. And they're also in our emails that we will send out with the link of the recording and everything else. It's actually from that email box.
Please know we do not send out emails that you're going to be just flooding your box. If you see something from our team, it's usually something very important. So, please read those. We try to get important information to you.
So here's a question. Can the effective dates be listed on the import files for dental, vision, and life insurance deductions for imports throughout the year? They are. And you see that on the screen, the effective date. And that comes directly from Chris. So not quite sure how to answer that, but they're on the screen. They're part of the import file. Go into
those folders. Yeah, when you go into those folders, you should see the effective dates for them. Those little folders that are the side of the benefit record, when you go into them, if it's dental, or it should have the effective date listed there within those sub files.
Okay, Kim, if we're good, I think I'll go ahead and end the meeting then.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.